The pen barely touched the paper. I remember that part clearly, not because it was dramatic, but because it wasn't. There was no yelling, no begging, no storming off, no smashed glasses or slammed doors. Just the click of her manicured nails flipping the folder open, the crack of the patio chair as I leaned forward, and the faint hum of cicadas as the sun turned the lake gold. It could have been any Thursday evening. You wouldn't know it was the day my wife tried to steal the home I paid cash for. Sign or get out, she repeated, standing with one hand on her hip, the other holding a glass of my scotch. My scotch. Macallan 18, if you're curious. I'd been saving it for the anniversary we never made it to. She didn't sit. She loomed, like she thought her shadow made her argument stronger. Vanessa wore the same silk robe I bought her last Christmas, the one she once thanked me for with fake tears and even faker affection. It slipped just enough to reveal the new necklace I hadn't given her. But I wasn't supposed to notice that. I was just supposed to read, sign, and leave quietly. The folder she handed me wasn't a surprise. I'd seen it coming for weeks. No, months. The late-night calls she took in the garage, the cash withdrawals, the networking weekends that lined up a little too perfectly with local music festivals I'd never been invited to. Even the new fitness routine she claimed was for self-care. Funny how self-care looked a lot like getting ready for someone else. Still, I played dumb. That was the role she'd written for me, and I gave a performance worthy of an Oscar. The documents were printed on thick paper, probably from her lawyer's overpriced office printer. The title page was bold, quitclaim deed transfer followed by a boilerplate mutual separation agreement. Her name appeared first, of course. She always liked to be first, always liked to win. I flipped through it slowly. Her eyes twitched when I paused on page 3, where the financial disclosures should have been. Nothing there. Interesting. On page 5, there was a list of agreed-upon assets, most of which were mine. My sailboat, my truck, my collection of tools she never once touched but insisted were communal property. I could hear her foot tapping. Don't play games, Michael. I looked up at her, not angry, not even surprised, just tired. Not physically, not emotionally. Tired like a man who finally realizes that someone's been peeing in his coffee every morning and calling it espresso. Vanessa, I said with a sigh, did you even read this yourself, or did your boyfriend's lawyer just hand it to you with a kiss? Her jaw twitched, but she didn't take the bait. She just gestured again. Sign. You can keep the watch. Ah, yes, the watch. A retirement gift from my old firm. Engraved on the back, for a legacy of quiet excellence. Fitting. That was the version of me they knew. Quiet. Steady. Predictable. She thought I'd go quietly. So I signed. One stroke after the next. No hesitation. No red pen. No corrections. And I did it all with the same fountain pen she gave me on our 5th anniversary. A Mont Blanc. Probably fake. When I stood up, I didn't say a word. I left the folder neatly stacked, right where the sweat from her scotch glass had made a ring. I took off my wedding ring and placed it beside the keys on the patio table. Not because I was trying to make a point, but because I knew she'd find it when she came out to gloat. And gloat she did. She walked me to the door, arms crossed, smug smile locked in place like a wax figure of victory. You'll regret not fighting for me, she said. I paused just before stepping into the driveway. The sun caught the glass of the upstairs bedroom window. I could see a silhouette behind it. Tall. Male. Not even trying to hide. No, I said, my voice calm. But you might want to call your lawyer tomorrow. She laughed behind me as I walked to the edge of the property. No suitcase. No fanfare. Just the watch and my wallet. But I didn't look back. I had a different kind of sunrise planned. And she was going to wake up to it. Vanessa was already on her second glass of champagne by 9:40 a.m. Not that it was unusual. Her morning routine had slowly shifted over the last year from green smoothies and sunrise yoga to brunch with whoever would listen to her talk about aligning with her higher self. This morning, it was Carrie, her blonde echo chamber with a law degree she never used and a habit of saying, "Yes, Queen," every time Vanessa mentioned freeing herself from her geriatric sponsor. They were sunbathing by the pool, laughing about some influencer's divorce drama, when Vanessa's phone buzzed. Her lawyer's name lit up the screen. Martin Crenshaw, ESQ, she smirked. Hold on, she said, rolling her eyes. Let me hear him gush about how flawlessly I handled yesterday. She answered with a breezy, Good morning, Martin. Guess what? I'm officially a homeowner. Silence. Then a voice that didn't match the usual smug tone. Vanessa, did he sign your version of the file? She sat up. Yes? Obviously. I handed it to him myself. Your copy, Martin snapped. Where is it? In my folder. On the kitchen counter. What? He exhaled audibly. Go look at it. Right now. Vanessa narrowed her eyes, but got up anyway. She strutted into the house, flipping her hair dramatically for Carrie's benefit. Men, she muttered. The folder was exactly where she left it. She plopped it on the marble counter, opened it, and flipped to the signature page. His signature was there, bold and smooth. Perfect. There, she said, putting Martin on speaker. Signed. Done. Okay, Martin said slowly. Turn to the last page. She froze. What last page? The last page, Vanessa. She flipped through again. Page 2, 3, 5. The signature on 7. But there wasn't a page 8. It ends at 7, she said. Martin's voice dropped to a whisper, like he was afraid someone might be listening. Jesus Christ. What? Vanessa. His version had an addendum. A clause that invalidates the quitclaim if certain conditions are triggered. What kind of conditions? He read from his own scanned copy. Clause 8a. Transfer shall be considered null and void upon the grantor's substantiated claim of post-separation cohabitation, attempt to liquidate the property, or evidence of extramarital intent by grantee within a 90-day window from date of execution. What the hell does that mean? Her voice shot up half an octave. It means, he said, he baited you. She looked back down at the file, rifling through the folder like the missing page might appear if she just wanted it badly enough. Nothing. Just her version. The one she printed. The one she handed him in her moment of so-called triumph. Martin continued, tone tight. You didn't notarize it. You didn't have a third party present. And you didn't cross-check copies. Why would I? He signed it. I watched him. You watched him slip a clause past you, Martin hissed. Because you were too busy planning your champagne bath. Carrie poked her head through the sliding doors, still holding Vanessa's phone. You okay? You look pale. Vanessa didn't answer. She walked to the trash, dumped the champagne down the sink, and muttered, I need the original back. Martin let out a bitter laugh. Good luck. It's already been filed. His copy, not yours. And let me guess, you posted something on social yesterday. Her heart dropped. The selfie. She'd posted a poolside photo last night. It had him in it. Not Michael. The other one. Vanessa's stomach turned as Martin added one more nail. If he files that clause, and he's got proof of infidelity or intent to sell, you don't own the house. You never did. Then he hung up. Carrie, still standing outside, watched her friend's face drain of color. Vanessa didn't move. She just stared down at the paper she once believed was her victory. But it was already too late. The last page wasn't missing. It had just never been hers. She tore through the folder like it owed her money. Vanessa's fingers shook as she yanked out each page. Overpriced, cream-colored parchment she insisted on to make it feel official. She had chosen the font. She had dictated the spacing. She had smugly handed it to Michael on the patio like she was executing some grand, unstoppable chess move. And now, like a magician fumbling her own trick, she couldn't find the rabbit. No page 8. No clause. No safety net. Just a perfectly neat stack of 7 pages, signed by a man who had left the keys on the table and walked out without raising his voice. She slapped the marble counter. He must have swapped it. Carrie, still draped in her oversized sunglasses and pool towel, peeked in from the patio door. Wait, like forged it. Vanessa spun around. No, he used his copy, the one with the clause. Did you check your email? Carrie asked. Maybe he sent it. Vanessa glared. He doesn't email. He mails checks with handwritten notes and uses a flip phone. He's not going to e-fax me a booby-trapped clause. Still, she grabbed her laptop and opened it. Nothing in the inbox. Nothing in spam. No PDF attachments. No scanned documents. No just so you have a copy emails. It was radio silence. Digital ghosting. And then the horror of it truly started to set in. She had no legal control, no paper trail to assert ownership. Only a digital selfie and a smug sense of entitlement. She called Martin back. Voicemail. She called again. Voicemail. The third time, he finally picked up. I'm in the middle of filing. What now? Did you file his version already? She snapped. I didn't have a choice, he replied. His team moved first. They submitted a scanned, notarized copy with tracking metadata, video timestamp, and a clerk's affidavit. You're kidding. I wish I were. She paced the kitchen now, chewing her thumbnail. He didn't even read the thing. He barely looked at it. No, Martin said. He didn't need to. He drafted it. That stopped her cold. What? I checked the document properties, he said. It was created by a paralegal at Rawls and Givens. That's a litigation firm. Corporate, real estate, ironclad contracts. It wasn't your lawyer boyfriend's usual family law garbage. She went silent. Then the pit in her stomach opened a little wider. The post. The one she thought was cheeky. Victorious. She had captioned it, "Finally free. Cheers to new chapters and lake views face blowing a kiss." And it was a boomerang video, her clinking glasses with someone off frame. But that wasn't the part that mattered. The tag. She had geotagged it. Right at the property. His property. Michael's property. She pulled it up on Instagram and stared at it, dread mounting like floodwater. Her smile in the clip was obnoxious. Tilted sunglasses, bare shoulders, smug eyes. The kind of grin that screamed, "I've won." But now it just screamed Exhibit A. Carrie stepped beside her. "You tagged the location?" "I always tag locations," Vanessa muttered. "It boosts engagement." Carrie looked at her like she'd just confessed to licking doorknobs during flu season. "And that guy in the background, he's not Michael." Vanessa didn't answer. Carrie blinked. "Girl, that's cohabitation." "No, it's not. It was just one night." "You used the word finally. The caption literally implies he's replacing your husband." Vanessa stared at the screen. At the hearts. At the comment from her sister that said, "Yes, you deserve happiness." At the like from her coworker. At the little check mark under Michael's name that showed viewed. "Oh my God," she whispered. "He saw it." Carrie slowly took a step back. "I mean, you did tell him to sign or get out." Vanessa turned to the kitchen sink and gripped the edge like it might fall off the wall. Her version of the file was worthless. Her copy was incomplete. Her celebration post was now legal ammunition. The deed was still in a trust. And somewhere, Michael was probably having lunch while her lawyer scrambled to put out a fire she started with a champagne flute and an Instagram filter. Outside, the wind knocked over a patio chair. Inside, Vanessa finally understood what she'd done. She hadn't won. She'd walked into a trap, wearing heels and a smile, dragging her own rope. The office smelled like old leather and dusted ambition, just the way Michael liked it. Langston and Company had been around for 40 years, nestled quietly in the second floor of a red brick office park with no signage and no nonsense. Its founder, Charles Langston, had been Michael's accountant since 1992, the kind of man who wore the same 3 ties in rotation and had the memory of a bloodhound. He didn't smile when Michael walked in, just nodded, pointed to the usual chair, and slid over a black folder. "She went for the house?" Charles asked, matter of fact. Michael nodded once. "Tried to. Came with a file like she was the damn sheriff." Charles opened the folder and removed a single page. "She's barking up the wrong title, then?" Michael almost smiled. "That's what I was hoping you'd say." Charles turned the page around. "You remember this?" The paper was crisp. Not a wrinkle. Not a smudge. Just a letterhead with Cumberland Trust Holdings LLC at the top. Under it, the legal designation, Discretionary Beneficiary Trust. Irrevocable until death or formal dissolution. Trustee, Michael R. Connolly. Created, March 14, 2015. 3 months before he met Vanessa. "I never changed it," Michael said quietly. "You didn't need to," Charles replied. "You made her comfortable, not compliant." Michael's lips thinned. She was never interested in details. "She's about to be." He flipped another document forward. "We file this. Formal notification of intent to revoke co-occupancy rights for external parties. The minute we do, any claim she tries to make on the house becomes vapor." She wasn't named. She wasn't gifted equity. Hell, she's never even paid a tax bill. Michael's eyes landed on the trust clause. He remembered the night he set it up. It was after watching 2 of his colleagues get wiped out in divorces. One of them lost the lake house his grandfather had built by hand. Michael told himself he wasn't cynical, just prepared. He even paid the extra retainer to keep the trust's ownership masked under a shell LLC. It had seemed excessive at the time. Now, it felt surgical. Charles handed him a pen. "Ready?" Michael signed. One motion. Clean. Just like on the patio. Charles immediately sent the scan notification to his assistant. "This locks it in. Her lawyer will receive formal revocation by certified mail, and we'll log it with the county by Monday. She won't be able to sneeze on that porch without a legal warning." Michael looked out the window, watching as a squirrel jumped from one bare tree branch to another, completely unaware of the world falling beneath it. "Do you think she knows yet?" Charles gave a short laugh. "If she's already called her lawyer, he's probably halfway through a bottle of bourbon. You played it smart. Nobody challenges a trust that predates the marriage, especially not one with layered discretion clauses." Michael thought about the keys he left on the table, how she'd smirked like she'd stolen something. But the truth was, she'd walked out of that house a squatter, a well-dressed trespasser with no legal stake and no backup plan. Charles slid over one more document. This one's optional, he said. It's a freeze notice on all property improvements or modifications. If she tries to rent it, renovate it, or film another one of those dumb influencer videos on the dock, it gives us cause to issue a cease and desist. Michael signed it without blinking. She posted a video last night, he said. Tagged the property. She thought she was declaring victory. Charles raised an eyebrow. Then we'll make it her confession. The office went still. Nothing but the soft clack of the scanner in the next room and the distant hum of a heater kicking on. Michael stood, buttoned his coat, and reached for his keys. This time, for the Buick, not the lake house. As he reached the door, Charles called after him. You want me to pull the credit card authorizations too? Lock out the joint accounts. Michael paused. Let her have a few more days of illusion. That's what she really wanted anyway. Ownership without understanding. He stepped into the hallway, phone vibrating in his pocket. Unknown number. He let it ring. Vanessa wasn't calling to apologize. She was calling to claw, but the house she thought she owned had never belonged to him in the first place. And soon, the courts would confirm it. In writing. On file. Permanent. Irrevocable. Ironclad. Michael wasn't looking for it. He was sitting alone at a diner that hadn't updated its decor since the Reagan administration, nursing a black coffee and skimming through the paper. No fanfare. No dramatic music. Just the quiet hum of mid-morning life around him. Forks clinking on plates. Muted laughter from a corner booth. The faint hiss of bacon grease from the kitchen. Then his phone buzzed. One image. No text. Just a screenshot. Sent from a buddy he hadn't heard from in weeks. The kind of guy who didn't reach out unless something was either hilarious or catastrophic. Michael opened the message. There she was, Vanessa, in the backyard of his lakefront property. Barefoot, hair perfectly tousled, glass in hand. Smiling at someone just off frame. But the reel didn't stop at the photo. The video was embedded. Michael tapped once. It played. The camera panned. A man, young, gym-fit, and aggressively tan, wrapped an arm around her waist and pulled her into a long, drawn-out kiss. He raised his glass. She laughed, saying something like, to starting fresh, finally. And then, clear as crystal, no more babysitting grumpy retirees. Michael blinked. Not out of hurt, not out of anger, out of the sheer predictability of it. He tapped forward. A second later, the screen displayed the view count, 16,478. It had already started making the rounds, mostly thanks to a local account that reposted soft lifestyle drama. Comments were piling in, some gushing over her dress, others tagging people, a few even laughing about the caption, "Freedom tastes like champagne on the dock." He hit download. Then he forwarded it to Charles. Not even 60 seconds later, his phone rang. "You're not going to believe this," Charles said, not bothering with a hello. "We just got back the official timestamp on the document. That clause we filed yesterday, the one tied to cohabitation." Michael didn't say a word. Charles chuckled darkly. Cohabitation confirmed. Publicly. And tagged with a GPS pin, no less. Michael raised an eyebrow. "That counts." Charles snorted. "Are you kidding? It's better than a PI report. She's not only living there, she's advertising it." He paused, then added, "You have the video, right?" "Already forwarded. Then I'll have our clerk submit the clause activation today. Trust Administrator's office opens at noon. By 1 o'clock, that house is under legal freeze, and your little trespasser and her boy toy will be squatting with a front row seat to their own eviction." Michael leaned back in the booth, watching as a waitress passed by with a slice of pie balanced on one arm. He smiled. "Make sure we copy her lawyer. Let him enjoy the footage too." "Oh, I will," Charles said, practically giddy. "I'll even include a still frame with arrows." Click. Michael hung up, finished his coffee, and sat quietly. He didn't check her social media. He didn't scroll through the comments. He didn't indulge in the gotcha moment. It wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about precision. About letting her tell on herself with glitter filters and champagne flutes. About building a trap with no need for bait. Just time, patience, and the arrogance of someone who thought the world bent around her hashtags. Outside, clouds were gathering over the lake, but she wouldn't notice. Not yet. Not while she was busy dancing barefoot in what she thought was her kingdom, filming little snippets of her imagined independence. Michael slid the phone into his jacket pocket, dropped a 20 on the table, and stood up without a word. One video, one clause, one step closer to removing her from a house she never legally touched. And the best part? She filmed the proof herself. The knock came just after noon. Vanessa was in the middle of recording a makeup tutorial on the deck, the lake glittering behind her, her ring light balanced precariously on a patio chair. She had just finished saying, "And now we blend, blend, blend," like we're erasing all the red flags, when the knock echoed from the front door. She paused. "Who the hell knocks anymore?" she muttered, annoyed. Probably the champagne delivery from that boutique distributor she liked to name drop. But when she opened the door, there were no chilled bottles, no Instagrammable bow-tied packaging, just a man in a gray suit and another with a clipboard. Both had the same grim, neutral expression worn by people who deliver bad news for a living. "Vanessa Doran?" the suited man asked, flipping a badge. Yes. I'm here on behalf of Cumberland Trust Holdings. This is a formal notice of property freeze pending clause verification." He handed her an envelope. Thick. Official. Her name typed neatly on the front. The return address. A firm she didn't recognize. "What the hell is this?" she asked, brow furrowed. The man didn't answer. Just nodded at the clipboard guy, who marked something, handed over another sheet, and then both turned and walked off the porch without another word. Vanessa stood there, barefoot, still half in her influencer persona, concealer brush in one hand, a notice of legal paralysis in the other. She tore the envelope open. At first, she didn't understand the legalese. Something about discretionary trust revocation triggers. Filing jurisdiction. Asset lock. Do not alter, sell, sublet, or renovate property during active hold period. Her eyes scanned the text. Faster, harder, until the clause jumped out at her. Filed pursuant to Section 8A of Trust Charter 4C. Activated by submission of time-stamped visual proof of clause violation. Effective immediately. Vanessa's stomach flipped. She picked up her phone and called Martin, her lawyer. No pleasantries. No fake charm. "They just showed up at my door with some kind of freeze notice." "I know," Martin said before she could finish. "I've already seen it. What the hell is going on?" Her voice cracked, half outrage, half panic. "You told me this was clean. I told you it was straightforward if the deed was legally yours. It's not." She didn't respond. "You signed a document that allowed him to walk away clean," Martin continued. "He added a clause you didn't catch. You filmed your own violation. Now he's filed the trigger and locked the property under discretionary control. You didn't see this coming?" she snapped. There was a pause. Then Martin's voice changed. Low, tired, colder than she'd ever heard it. "Vanessa, in 30 years of practice, I've never seen a client walk into a more perfectly executed setup. He didn't just plan this. He engineered it. Every move, every paper, every clause. He made it legal art. You're not just outmaneuvered. You're trapped. Can't we file something? Undo it? Fight it? No, not right now. Not until the court finishes the review." "And how long is that going to take?" she demanded. Martin sighed. "Long enough for the freeze to wreck any attempt at sale or refi. Long enough to put a warning flag on the parcel. Long enough for your new roommate to wonder why the water bill is suddenly in the red." She turned slowly toward the window. There he was, shirtless and barefoot, sipping from her crystal tumbler like he'd earned it. Her fresh start. Her new chapter. "Martin," she said, her voice low, "I can't let this happen. This was supposed to be my reset. My name, my house." "It was never your house," he interrupted. "You just lived there." Then, softer, "You told him to sign or get out. He got out. But he left a grenade under the coffee table." Vanessa's hand trembled slightly as she hung up. She dropped the notice onto the kitchen island next to a half-eaten croissant and a sticky ring of peach mimosa. It looked wrong there. Paper and ink cutting through the haze of brunches and filtered daydreams. The property was locked. The accounts? Probably next. She reached for her phone to check Zillow. Just to see, she told herself, but her fingers hovered over the screen like it might bite. Outside, her new man waved at her through the glass. She didn't wave back. The house had never been hers. Now, it wasn't even livable. It was just a stage, and she was an actress trapped mid-scene, frozen before the spotlight burned out. Vanessa stared at her phone screen like it was broken. The Chase app refused to refresh. Spinning wheel. Error. Try again later. She exited the app, reopened it. Nothing. Again. Still nothing. Finally, on the third try, the balance appeared, and her jaw locked. $41.52. It had been over $28,000 yesterday. She was sure of it. She'd checked after brunch, transferred some to her hairdresser, even tipped a delivery guy with Zelle. And now? She refreshed again. $41.52. A sudden panic hit her chest, sharp and cold, like stepping into an ice bath she didn't see coming. She flipped to the joint account, the one she once used like a personal tab. Botox, facials, designer sunglasses, hotel rooms. Closed. Not locked. Closed. She nearly dropped the phone. Frantic now, she opened Amex. Her personal gold card. The one Michael had insisted stay in his name for credit score purposes, but which she'd always treated like hers. Declined. A red alert from yesterday's wine subscription renewal. No, she whispered. No, 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 no. Her feet were already moving before she realized she was heading for the garage. She threw open the door, expecting to see her white Escalade, polished and pristine. Gone. Not just moved. Not borrowed. Gone. In its place was a single slip of paper taped to the garage wall. Typed. Return to owner of record, Cumberland Trust Holdings. There wasn't even a signature. Just the date. She stared at it in disbelief. The SUV wasn't hers. Of course it wasn't. He'd leased it to the trust. Just like the house. Just like the stupid club membership she thought was joint, but was actually categorized under guest privileges, in his name only. Back in the kitchen, she fumbled with the phone, dialing. Straight to voicemail. Again. And again. Michael wasn't going to answer. She texted instead. Short. Sharp. We need to talk. This is insane. Delivered. Not read. Then another. You took everything. Still not read. She threw the phone across the kitchen island. It slid off the marble and smacked into the floor with a sharp crack. A second later, her boyfriend, if that title even made sense anymore, walked in from the dock, holding a half-empty bottle of the champagne she'd bought with what used to be her credit. Babe, the Escalade's not in the garage. Did you move it? Vanessa didn't answer. He looked at her more closely. You okay? She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. How could she explain that the man she mocked as boring had just gutted her life like a surgeon with a scalpel? That her accounts were emptied, her credit revoked, her car repossessed, not by some stranger, but by design? By Michael. She finally spoke. It's gone. He took everything. Her voice was too calm for the panic in her chest. Her boyfriend raised an eyebrow. You mean like, canceled your cards? No, she said flatly. I mean like, precision airstrike. And then, like he suddenly realized he might be living rent-free in a castle built on paper, he took a step back. You sure the house is still yours? Vanessa didn't answer. She reached for the freezer and grabbed the last remaining bottle of the champagne. The one with the gold foil she'd been saving for when this was all over. She popped it with a bitter twist and poured herself a full glass. No toast. No smile. Just silence. Then she muttered. He waited. All this time he waited. Not like a victim. Not like a fool. But like a man building the perfect vacuum, inch by inch, until the moment he flipped a switch and watched everything she depended on collapse. And now? Now the lights were still on, but she couldn't afford to change the bulbs. He didn't scream. He didn't beg. He just took back everything she never owned to begin with. And did it so quietly, it felt like the air itself had turned against her. The message came with no warning, no pleasantries, just a single line. Vanessa, unfortunately we're going to have to postpone the master suite remodel indefinitely. Thank you for understanding. No emojis. No explanation. No follow-up. Vanessa stared at the email like it had personally insulted her. Postpone. This was Judith Sinclair, her biggest client, a woman who once paid $4,800 for a chandelier shaped like a cluster of melting grapes because Vanessa told her it whispered decadence. She called immediately, straight to voicemail. Texted. Nothing. Then she checked Instagram. Judith's page, normally a stream of antique mirrors and rooftop brunches, had reposted a news clipping. Her stomach dropped. The title, Designer's Lakefront Home Under Legal Freeze Amid Trust Dispute. Beneath it, a blurry screenshot of the freeze notice, a photo of her front door with the envelope taped to it, and a few lines of legalese about discretionary trusts and disputed property control. It hadn't made the Times, but it didn't need to. It had gone viral in the exact wrong circle, her circle. Wealthy wives with renovation budgets and zero tolerance for public scandal. The kind of women who didn't care if you cheated or connived, as long as it wasn't messy. And this was messy. She scrolled further and saw another post. A comment thread. Someone had uploaded the champagne reel, the one with her and her new beginning. And someone else had linked it to the property records site showing the legal freeze. That was the moment it snapped. Her name was trending in a gated community Facebook group called Curated Spaces, Discreet Designers Only. Discreet, she was not. Her phone buzzed again. Another client. A smaller one. Same message, different flavor. So sorry, we're pausing the mudroom redesign until things settle down. Hope all is well. Settle down. They meant disappear. By lunchtime, 2 more clients ghosted. Her assistant, who had been growing increasingly silent, texted to say her grandmother was ill and she'd be taking a leave of absence indefinitely. Then, finally, a call came in, a number she didn't recognize. She answered like her life depended on it. Vanessa Doran Designs, how can I? Vanessa. A voice cut in, clipped and sharp. It's Celeste. I need to be frank. Celeste. Palm Beach. The walk-in wine cellar woman. I've had 3 people forward me that article, Celeste continued. 3. In the last 20 minutes. One of them was my financial advisor. Vanessa tried to jump in. It's completely blown out of proportion. There's a legal. I don't care, Celeste snapped. I can't afford the association. I host senators in my home. Your name can't be anywhere near mine until this all fades. The call disconnected. Vanessa sat there, still holding the phone to her ear long after the screen had gone dark. It was like someone had pulled the thread on her carefully embroidered life, and now the seams were unraveling faster than she could stitch. She pulled up her inbox. Unread messages were piling up, but not from clients. From vendors. Suppliers. One had paused her trade discount account. Another required prepayment now instead of invoice terms. One simply said, "Please confirm continued ability to pay based on recent events." She clicked away from the browser, but it didn't help. The walls of her brand, the curated image, the handcrafted perfection, the luxury with a personal touch, were collapsing. What would she even post tomorrow? A selfie in front of a locked garage and a frozen asset? Her ring light still sat on the deck, forgotten. Her influencer scripts now sounded like punchlines to a joke Michael had written years ago. And the worst part? He hadn't even touched her business. He didn't need to. All he had to do was remove the illusion of stability, and the high society clients she built her identity on fled like raccoons from a lit match. She opened her website, clicked on current projects, then slowly hit unpublish. Not because the business was gone, but because the belief in her was. And without that, the throw pillows, the accent walls, the bold textures, they all just looked like what they were. Attempts to hide decay. Vanessa opened the door expecting a delivery. Instead, Martin stood there, sweating through his collar, his tie loosened like he'd ripped it off in the parking lot. He didn't speak right away, just looked at her the way a surgeon might look at a patient who insisted on removing their own appendix with garden shears. You didn't tell me everything. His voice wasn't angry. It was something worse, worn down. Like he'd run out of gas miles ago, but was still coasting downhill, praying the brakes held. Vanessa crossed her arms, leaning on the doorframe. Nice to see you too. He didn't step inside until she moved, slowly, with the half-smirk of a woman still trying to control a fire she had clearly started. He walked straight to the kitchen island and dropped a thick folder. It landed with a thud that echoed far too loudly in the now silent house. I pulled everything. Every filing, every clause, every cross-reference from his legal team. You know what I found? She didn't answer. I found a trust created before you met, with discretionary limits, structured to avoid community property laws. The house was never his to give you. She blinked. But he signed it. No, Martin snapped. He let you hand him a document that looked official so you'd believe you were in control. He didn't hand you anything. And he certainly didn't give away a house he never legally owned. Vanessa gripped the counter. You're telling me it's invalid? I'm telling you it's laughable. Martin opened the folder. Inside were copies of deeds, trust agreements, time-stamped court filings, Michael's war chest of legal precision. At the top sat a single highlighted section. Spousal claims do not extend to assets held in premarital discretionary trusts where no explicit transfers or joint ownership were established. Her name wasn't anywhere. Not in the trust. Not on the deed. Not in a single filed document. She didn't exist on paper. Martin exhaled sharply, pulled out a chair, and sat down heavily. I get it. He was older. Stable. You thought you could pivot this into something real. Land, legacy, lifestyle. But you didn't marry a retiree, Vanessa. You married a planner. The kind who writes revocation clauses into napkin notes just for fun. She sank into the chair across from him, suddenly ice cold. So what now? He gets everything. He always had everything, Martin said. You were just visiting. She looked up at him, mascara smudged slightly at the corner of one eye. Her mouth opened like she was about to argue, but nothing came out. Martin lowered his voice. And worse? That stunt you pulled? The video. The man. The caption. It didn't just trigger the clause. It framed you. To any judge looking at that file, it looks like you instigated separation. Like you used emotional leverage to coerce a signature. And he comes off like the guy who walked away to avoid conflict. Vanessa pressed a palm to her forehead. It was just supposed to scare him. Martin almost laughed. Well, congratulations. He scared you back with paperwork. Then, quieter, almost kindly, he added, you need a new strategy. She looked up, hopeful for the first time in days. He held her gaze a moment, then said it. Or a miracle. The silence that followed wasn't dramatic. It was surgical, cold, precise. Like Michael's plan. Martin stood and gathered the folder. I'll stall what I can. But it won't buy you time. Just delay the inevitable. She followed him to the door, not to say goodbye, but to ask something. Anything, to regain her grip. But Martin just shook his head. Don't text him. Don't post. Don't threaten. Just go quiet. For once in your life. Then he stepped out into the sunlight, leaving the door open behind him. She stood there, staring at the empty street, as the breeze rustled the papers still taped to her garage, the same notice she hadn't torn down. And in that moment, it finally landed. She hadn't been robbed. She'd been outmaneuvered by a man she once called predictable, and a version of herself she'd never bothered to imagine losing. The wind had started to shift by dusk, cooler now, no longer summer's warmth, but the kind of chill that hinted at endings. Vanessa stood on the patio barefoot, arms wrapped around herself, the silence of the lake pressing in from all sides. Her phone was dead. Her inbox was a graveyard, and her reflection in the sliding glass door looked 10 years older than she remembered. She wasn't sure what had drawn her outside. Maybe habit. Maybe some fragile piece of muscle memory. The last place she'd felt untouchable. The glass table where she'd once stood victorious, folder in hand, demanding compliance from a man who simply nodded, signed, and walked away. But something was different now. There was something on the table. A page, weighted under one of the old river stones Michael used to collect on their hikes. She hadn't seen it before. Or maybe she hadn't noticed. Or maybe, just maybe, it had only been left after everything else fell apart. She stepped closer, slowly, like approaching a grave marker you didn't expect to find. The paper was familiar. Cream stock. Heavy. The same paper as the agreement she had waved at him like a sword. But this page, this was the one she never got. Page 8. She pulled it free from under the stone, her hands trembling, and read. Clause 8a. All transfers are void upon proof of non-spousal cohabitation within 90 days. It was highlighted, bright yellow, and below that, not typed, but handwritten, in clean, deliberate cursive, unmistakably Michael's, was a single line. You wanted me gone. Now I'm just a name you can't erase from the deed, or your regrets. She read it again, and again. Each time, her vision tunneled further